About a month or so ago, a generous friend gifted me a copy of Days Gone after he learned that I had never heard of it before. Going into this completely blind, I was not prepared for how much of an adventure this was going to be. I won't go into detail about the story following the main character, Deacon St. John, but the footage in this video will reflect a game state that is after the story is completed, so you can consider this a minor spoiler warning for certain weapons, upgrades, and enemies you'll encounter. At the same time though, the game has been out for long enough that a spoiler warning probably isn't warranted, but if there are more people like me who haven't heard of it, I still want to be considerate of that to a degree. If I can state it plainly, Days Gone is absolutely worth your time. You may have heard stories about it having a bumpy release, but if my experience of the game is anything to go off of, I didn't run into any problems. At least not big ones. In reports, you may have heard that the game was buggy at launch appears to have been rectified since then for the most part. That's not to say that just because a game runs well that it means it's worth your time, but now that I've assured you that the game actually works, here are some actual reasons for why it's worth playing. Number 1. Traversal. I've never had more fun exploring an open world than I have in Days Gone. There's something really special about how the traversal mechanics all come together to make it feel like a true adventure. I mean, fast traveling is a thing in this game, but most of the time I don't want to. Manually traveling to every location is just that engaging, and a lot of that is because you don't know what could happen. You could run into an ambush, hordes, wild animals, or your bike could even run out of gas if you're not managing your fuel well. The world itself feels full and lived in. You could stop almost anywhere at any time and find something to scavenge or kill or just look at. There's always something to do, and there's always something trying to kill you. One minute you're picking berries, and the next Big Bear's having Deacon St. John McRibs. And when it comes to riding your bike, while there's an innate joy that comes from roaring down abandoned roads, the survival element of needing to constantly maintain your bike's fuel and repairs adds some gritty realism to it every time you hit the road. Traveling in Days Gone is never boring when your mode of travel is a constantly depleting resource in a threat-saturated environment. Number 2, zombies. Freakers. That's what they call them. I don't know. I'm just gonna call them zombies for the sake of comparison. I've never heard of a game that handled zombies quite like Days Gone has. This mostly has to do with the hordes. If you've ever wanted to fight zombies like in World War Z, this game is the place to do it. If not planned for properly, fighting a horde can go south fast. The AI in the hordes is surprisingly intelligent too. Lesser zombie enemies in most games would always just make a beeline for you, creating a single file line into your minigun meat grinder, but the hordes in Days Gone don't do this. They actually make an effort to surround you. They attack like a giant amoeba, and if you don't have your bike, you can't just run away either. Unless your stamina is upgraded enough, you can't run far enough away for them to leave you alone before they're able to catch up to you. They are faster than you when not sprinting. It makes hordes one of the scariest and most rewarding zombie experiences I've ever had in a game. What the developers have managed to accomplish with their version of what the zombie is in a video game is revolutionary as far as I'm concerned. Number 3. Weapons, crafting, and upgrades. Now, I'm not going to say that you have tons of options when it comes to weapons, crafting, and upgrades, but it's enough to let you choose how you want to approach the game. There isn't any one style that's better than another. If you want to stealth the whole game, you can totally upgrade your character and weapons to accommodate that playstyle. Or, you can be a gunslinging bat out of hell. It's up to you, really. Even still, you can put your money and elbow grease into upgrading your bike. Eventually, you get to the point where you can upgrade and craft everything, but how you get there is your choice. What's important to note here is that your options are not overwhelming. There's enough to make meaningful choices, but not so much that you need a tutorial to figure out how everything works. The game does a good job of teaching you how to play it on its own. When it comes to weapons, I found myself often switching around my loadout because I couldn't decide on what I preferred. Your main loadout consists of a sidearm, primary, and special weapon. Each weapon varies in range, power, stealth, rate of fire, etc., and trying to decide how you want each weapon class in your arsenal to function sometimes isn't easy to calculate. What works well against hordes might not work as well against a marauder camp supported with snipers and vice versa. I found myself equipping weapons based on what I was expecting to face, but things don't always go to plan out there. It makes it feel like the choices you have really matter. Number 4. The story. Admittedly, the story is the weakest part of the game. Part of that is because the gameplay is so good that it just outshines it. On the other hand, it does just sort of drag on a little at times. I'll say that it was serviceable, and that it grew on me as the game went on. I didn't care about the story at all when I started, and by the end of the game when you talk to O'Brien for the last time, I was actually pretty excited about the idea of a sequel. Also, the story behind how the Freakers' biology works is really interesting and different from any other type of zombie in any other franchise that I know of. It's probably now my favorite version of a zombie out there, and based on how much is known now, I would venture to say that they're even more interesting than the Cordyceps in The Last of Us, at least in my opinion. The story in Days Gone wasn't always delivered very well, but it does stand out in a pretty unique way. The last thing that I'll mention that makes this worth your time are the challenge modes after finishing the story. If you enjoy the mercenary mode in the Resident Evil franchise, that's sort of what some of the challenge modes are, but with hordes. You can have a World War Z style fight whenever you want. They're pretty difficult, but it's something that you can grind on and have a good time with. There's even a funny golf cart taxi service challenge mode, and it's just so silly. The challenge modes, though, are just the cherry on top of a great experience overall. This game ticked so many boxes for me for what a zombie survival game should consist of, and I think I covered most of the main reasons for why I feel that way. If you got the time, money, and machine to try it out, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out, and let me know what you think about Days Gone or something else you think I should cover in the comments. And I'll see you here next time.